So we work definitely on the defensive unit and the defensive shape and the defensive organisation to try and get something from the game. Always, believe it or not, with the idea to win. We never ever spoke to the players about accepting a draw. If you get a draw, you get a draw. But we always went with the game plan to make the game feel different against high quality opposition and to give us the best chance of winning. So we're going to Liverpool Football Club, going to Anfield. We're playing a team that hasn't been beaten in 68 games at home. So you're looking to set up as best you can to win a game. On this occasion, we've got Pope here, done brilliant for us. Loughton, grown into the Premier League. Tarkowski, top centre-half, and me, in my opinion, as well. Charlie Taylor continues to grow, or was growing in the Premier League, at that time. Dwight McNeil, big fan of, good young player, lots of experience. Westy, Brownie's done great. Westy with his experience, been at a place like Villa and played through some tough times there and come out of it. Robbie Brady, doing great in different ways for us. Barnes, real handful and an awkward customer from his history of playing in lower league football and bringing it to the Premier League. And Wood always seemed to find a goal for us, So on paper, I'm going into the game in spite of what's going on with them and 60 unbeaten and all that. But we're looking going, okay, that's just... arguably one or two, Cork and people like that, and you can argue with the centre forwards, but really, that's a strong side for us going into this game on paper. I just want to give you an idea on how we took on Liverpool to beat their unbeaten run, difficult as it was. For the start point of how we'd work at Burnley Football Club, if I just start with the Liverpool side to give you a view of it, they try and make the game expansive from literally a goal kick, trying to drop out to play. So we'd lock on, our centre forwards would lock on, be brave with our midfield, we felt, push them right into the deep line or around it, move our wide players quite high, they'd leave their wide players high and wide, quite general to the Premier League as well, but certainly general to this style of team that you're playing because they're probably going to dominate the ball. So within that, we're attempting to stop them from playing out. We know if they get the ball moving, most teams at this level of the market, but that being Liverpool, they want to move it quickly, they want to find the lines of pass. So as a start point, we wanted to try and make the game feel different. So they're now playing longer football, they have to kick it at times, and then it's kind of a second ball game where it just trying is not easy, trying to put them out their rhythm a little bit. So we'd lock on. If they do get passing, then it's a chance for us to keep them same side. So we really attempted to crunch the pitch. But for start point, they kick it. We think we can dominate here through Tarkowski and me, good headers of the ball. If it drops in, then it's return to positions, get back on their deep lie for one of our centre forwards. Centre forward comes here, our wide players come in, and we crunch the game, ready for if it drops. We're hoping our midfielders can gather the ball, and as I said, make it feel a bit tricky, a bit awkward, something different for Liverpool to deal with. Doesn't always work, but that's our intention. The distances here are really important because as you'll have seen, sometimes keepers, the quality of Alisson, they'll clip it wide. So it's important our wide players get in between these positions here. Our centre forwards get in between these positions here, locking on where possible, etc., etc. So now imagine they've kicked it, we've dealt with it, and we've changed the flavour of the game. What about when you can't? So it's fair to say Liverpool hand on, play quickly, and they start the game in a different manner. So now they're playing. So imagine the ball goes out to the right centre half. Now we're looking to lock on one side. So the opposite centre forward, let's imagine the ball's gone this side, drops into the north side of their deep line midfield player. We're now looking to stay in this position, but we're looking to press if they get a chance to play there, from that position. So this is kind of that holding position, but we're locking on here. We get across, and now we're asking our midfielder to release off this position and really start pushing in to lock in here. Our other midfielder gets round and we tuck round, and we're really trying to crunch the pitch now. The challenge to this is if they get the play off early, in spite of some popular belief, a lot of these teams do play short football, of course, opening up the passing lanes, etc. But they're not adverse when they need to stretch the play, particularly if you're playing against a team like ours that are trying to crunch the play. So we have to be aware of that. We're now trying to mind read the opposition and say to our players, right, if that occurs, let's say Alexander-Arnold, he can open up and hit this longer pass here. So while we're crunching this pitch and we're forcing them this way, we're trying to make that favourable to us. If they do open the game up with the longer pass, which they're capable of doing, Van Dijk does it ever so well off the opposite side, then we've got to see how quickly we transfer this shape across. So it's really important. Right back, Loughton on this occasion, I think it was, drives out. Robbie Brady now drives out. Tarkowski has to get across. Ben Mee gets across. Charlie Taylor gets across. Our midfield have to work really hard to get across. Our centre forward releases, while these players recover back, because obviously the ball's gone so far. It's this side of the pitch that's important to get across quickly. This side, you still want them across quickly, but obviously there will be a delay as the game opens up, then how quickly we can lock in this side again. The challenge with that, it sounds good on paper, is they're clever players. So now and again, they get it so fast you can't get over quick enough, and then they'll play quickly. Sometimes they'll play here, come back out and recycle it, to use the modern term, out the other side where you've just come from. And they start using the ball and manipulating it whilst trying to cut through you. So then you have to retreat, and we get behind the ball, if that should occur. We're now getting back into these zones. We're protecting the back four. One of our centre forwards, often when he played Ashley Barnes, very good defender from the front, drops into this position. And our other centre forward staying high, because you've still got to try and create breakaways and service the play for yourselves. So now these have got into this more advanced position. Wide players, field players, deep liar, fullback, sometimes very advanced, depending. Robertson, goes on. They get these kind of positions where they're high up the pitch, and now it's how crunched can you stay everywhere. You're trying to stay compact here, but you're having to shuffle really quickly across the play. And if they advance right into these areas here, then we talk about protecting the V. So the V being, from a defensive point of view, they're now in the final third of the pitch. If you imagine a V kind of coming outside of the box area here, this is the back four particularly, but the midfield slightly go along these lines as well. So I'm just going to manufacture it back a little bit. There's the four, their four that is, defensive four. Deep line midfield player. Two midfield players in advance nowadays, number 8, number 10, depending on who calls what. And they're wide players here. So when it's like that, we want our back four nice and compact. Forget about what's out here. We're saying we want compaction. We want it to be nice and compact, and definitely inside the lines of the box. So if you imagine that V, I'm going to exaggerate it slightly there. If you imagine that V that I'm talking about, going off this kind of area next to the post, out to this area, and then straightens up a bit towards the halfway line. Ideally, we want most of our team inside of that V, kind of like I'm showing there. That keeps us nice and compact. All that happens then, the V changes. So if they now play fast football across the back, which they're capable of, or unload the longer pass, once they get across here, we have to engage here, our fullback. We have to get our wide player across. We have to get our midfielder across. Now these three are separated in the V. So the V's tight here and tight there, but these three are now inside of that V to protect this key zone. You'll all know position of maximum opportunity, etc., most goals scored in this area. So we really worked hard to protect that V. Midfielder has to get across to fill the gaps when he has to. Wide players, we ask lots of work from our wide players to sometimes get inside when they have to, or press the ball, leave the fullback inside of that V. We work really hard to maintain that shape and to dominate this area defensively. Yet again, all this sounds really easy when it's like this. When you're playing the likes of Liverpool, not so easy, because they manipulate it well. They're very clever players. And once they get into this area, if you're presupposing we want them to cross, we think we're strong in here, they don't always cross. They'll still look for clever play, 1-2, so you have to still be alive. We did this, I think we beat Liverpool at home with the lowest percent of possession in the Premier League. It was 2-0 at home. And we did this really well. We had to dominate this area. And if you looked at the day, that's 25 efforts at goal and all that. But if you looked on the day, they weren't really efforts that you thought you were really in trouble. When we went away in the game that I'm talking about, similar thinking, but we were a bit older, a bit wiser. The team was a bit more wise. So how could we transfer this thinking? And the reason why I'm giving you this defensive view is because when you go to Liverpool, in my opinion, although teams do try and do it, I think it's naive to go away to places like Liverpool, Man City, and think you're going to dominate the ball. It's highly unlikely. So we work definitely on the defensive unit and the defensive shape and the defensive organisation to try and get something from the game. Always, believe it or not, with the idea to win. We never ever spoke to the players about accepting a draw. If If you get a draw, you get a draw. But we always went with the game plan to make the game feel different against high quality opposition and to give us the best chance of winning. Forget about everything else, forget about brand and all that. The modern game is dominated by how can you make it awkward for them and how can you win the game. So that was our thinking with this defensive unit, because we felt it was the best form of us winning the game was to get this right. You have to transfer what I've just said into some form of attack. So how do you do that when you play Liverpool, who dominate, we call it 5-yard fury. So if the ball turns over, they get after you really quick because they want to stop it at source and they want to continue to stop it at source. Man City do it very, very well. They come off their shape, turn over the play, and they dominate with their pressing very quick. Like I said many years ago, pressing is the new passing, and I felt that it would be. And I think over the last 7 or 8 years in the Premier League, you can all see the change. Even the teams that are playing, even the very high quality football teams are pressing very, very quickly on turnover and transition. So when that occurs, we were looking at start points. So does the ball go out of play, which it often does when you're playing these quality of sides, because if it's a goal or crosses. So when you get a start point from a keeper, what we're looking to do then? Well, similar but different. They're setting up in their shape because they know as well, they're thinking, well, Burnley are probably going to kick it. I don't think they're going to play out too many times unless it's really on to do so and play quickly. Our start point would either be the soft diagonal into Woody, let's say, or we'd kick down this side of the pitch. But now we're looking similar but different to crunch them into a situation where if it drops, we can now play fight football, if you like, change the feel of the game, make it not as easy as them to collect the ball and then play again. We want to try and make it as uncomfortable as possible in the right ways. So even if we were playing here, unless it was fast football or sometimes to try and get a foothold in the game, because you've still got to play, you've still got to try and affect the opposition. If they're trying to press and play and the midfield are locking in, then we'd try and play either over the top of this midfield, because a lot of teams play with 3 in there, which you'd all know. So we have to play over the top of it, because it'd be madness to play 2 versus 3. If you think about it, it's just logic. It's not about brands, it's just logical. Or very difficult to play 2 versus 3. So your midfield have to accept it's going to be one of them days when they're working. That's it. That's their job. It's working, it's playing knockdown until the time comes when you will have your passages of play, just by the way football works. So it comes out to say Tarkowski, he's looking to play, but if it's bounced off, he's probably going to play forward. Not every time, but quite a lot. If it's Pope, he's probably going to kick it, get a foothold in the game, calm it down, make it try and feel about our game rather than Liverpool's. Then, of course, you do get your moments when you advance. Now, the thing is that, you've got to remember, even for these teams, and fantastic sides they are, it's difficult for all teams in the Premier League to literally dominate every segment of every game. So you are going to have your spell, and them spells become really important. So the longer we felt we could stay in this style of game, and it's a lot more difficult than I'm making out on this tactics board, you're going to have your spell. You're going to find chances. You might not find many, but they're really important when they come your way. So how can you operate from this shape? Well, as I said, you can mix your play, you can play forward, you can ask questions here. On turnover, as you'll all know, Liverpool often play a very, very advanced straight line. So when we're looking to play quickly and affect this in behind their back 4 area, that's important. So can we land it? Can we almost clip it on? So, another misconception when people talk about long ball football and all the rest of it is, these are Premier League players, right? If you're in the Premier League, you should be able to pass the ball beyond 10 yards. Trust me. So therefore, we're looking for quality. We're not looking to just hit the ball into this area. We're looking for quality. We're looking to set. Ashley Westwood, very good at it, set, and he'll play around the corner. Josh Brownhill learning that side of his game, but great energy on the day, this day particularly. Barnsley played lower league football before he's in the Premier League, so he can read that situation. And now you make it just as uncomfortable as possible for this back 4 unit that wants to stay really high. You might not get many opportunities to do this, but it's important that you use it wisely. And just keep asking questions here. Staying in the game is the biggest thing against these teams. And we've tried it many times. Famously against Man City, it didn't work, trust me. But against Liverpool, we seem to find a way a little bit better over the years we played them, not always. But in this particular game, defensive structure was very, very important, almost vital. But then still to have the ability to open up and ask questions at the right time of the opposition. So on the day, our chance comes from a set-piece scenario. To give you an idea of that, It's not just knocking the ball into the box. Our record of set pieces was strong in the Premier League over my years. We're trying to disturb this back area of the pitch. We did it so well with Ben-Mee and Tarkowski. On this day, it's Tarkowski on the back. The point being, of course, first contact is really important. Second contact's even more in a different way. But if you can't contact, make it awkward, make it feel uncomfortable, make the ball drop down into a key area where it kind of creates a little bit of feel and panic in there. So on the day, Dwight McNeil puts a really measured kind of ball into this back area. Tarky has a sort of fight scene. We don't quite get it. But the idea being that second phase scenario. So they head it, Loughton steps in, wins the header, and then as they're coming out, Barnes, as you can see, spins, gets in behind him. And, you get a penalty out of not that much, really, but that's how football can be. It's not always about perfect football, especially not when you're Burnley. How do you play perfect football against these sides? So, again, we had to find a way. On the day, a set piece, causing a little bit of confusion in there maybe, getting on that second phase after the first phase of the set piece, being alive from that second phase, and Barnes gets a penalty out of nothing. And all of a sudden, you get a chance to win the game against Liverpool. Fantastic occasion for all concerned. But I must make it clear, when you're playing teams like this, amongst all this planning, defensive planning, attack planning, all the different things you can do, and I mean it sincerely, you still might need a day when they're a bit quiet. You have a good day. The details are good in your performance because they're going to have to be. Your keeper might have to play well. Might need a decision, which we got on this day. But all you can do as a manager is to make sure the players have got everything they're going to need to try and take on some of these giants of football. And I thought over time, the players delivered that well, and they certainly delivered it well on this occasion. When you come across a result like that, you're not really bothered. I certainly wasn't bothered about the fact they'd gone so many games without losing at home and all that sort of stuff. That's not of my concern. That's something for the fans to talk about. For me, it was a big 3 points, very important 3 points. It's a feather in your cap somewhat, but I'd been in the Premier League long enough. I'd had a few of them, and on varying occasions, we beat Man City, which thought was impossible at that time. We didn't do them many times, trust me. Chelsea away and the likes, and Liverpool at home and things like that. But it's still a feather in the cap for the players somewhat. It builds belief. It builds a belief in what you do and what they do and what they deliver. It builds a belief in your fan base and a great occasion for the fans. But that's not really going through your mind, to be honest. What's going through my mind, the team's delivered what I thought they could. They've delivered it in a manner that's got us a result. They deserve it for their work ethic over a season, because I've always had players who worked hard. And you need a reward sometimes against these teams. You need a reward to sort of revive or continue to build the confidence in a group. And I think that's what it does. More for me, just to get another big 3 points, but then the feel being great for the fans and great for football in a way, because even these giants, now and again, it's nice for the smaller clubs to take them on and to get a win.